Hello, this is Caleb Krebs. Do I have something to clear my throat? Yeah. It's Caleb Krebs talking about another film review. The internet's busiest internet nerd. I'm gonna keep saying that until someone calls me out because I think it's funny and I like it. I mentioned in the last episode that I was gonna talk about In the Mood for Love. Sorry about the noise. Give me a second. We're going to talk about In the Mood for Love, a 2000 film directed and written by Wong Kar-wai. I hope I didn't mess that up. Phenomenal. He's a great filmmaker. Chungking Express, amazing film, hugely inspirational. In the Mood for Love is just... I'm going to say right now that I don't think it's amazing, but there's a lot of things about it that I do like. We're going to kind of get into that right now. The film was released in 2000. It was Hong Kong and premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in 2000. Or was nominated for the Palme d'Or, and Tony Leung awarded Best Actor, the first Hong Kong actor to win at Cannes. To win an award at Cannes. They say this is one of the greatest films of all time. And I think it's very good. I just think there's a lot of things that I don't like about it. I don't know why I'm ranting on about that now. Let me get into the plot first. The story opens in... I'm going to read this straight from Wikipedia. The story opens in an exiled Shanghainese community in British Hong Kong in 1962. Oh, that's the best part of this film, is that it's a 2000 film. It takes place in 1962, and it's so beautifully shown. And like the girl, everyone talks about the girl and the way she's dressed, and she's beautiful, and just the elegance that she had. I don't know. I really liked the whole style and the way she dressed and the way the guy always had the suit on. It just looked very nice, and I just really liked that. Anyways, Chow Mo Wan, a journalist, rents a room in an apartment of a building on the same day as Su Li Zhen, a secretary from a shipping company. They become next-door neighbors. Each has a spouse who works and often leaves them alone on overtime shifts. Due to their very friendly but overbearing presence of the Shanghainese landlady, Miss Suin, and their bustling mahjong playing neighbors. Mahjong is just a gambling game. Cho and Sue often find themselves alone in their rooms. So they're neighbors, right? But the two neighbors are friends with each other and they gamble a lot. So they're left in their rooms alone, especially because they're older. And that's another significant thing, is to understand that these people are older than them and from another generation than the two young people living in the rooms. Their lives continue to intersect in everyday situations. A recurring motif is loneliness and eating alone. The film documents the leads, the male and the female, chance encounters, each making his or her individual trek to the street noodle stall, sometimes intersecting without connecting. You just see them kind of pass by each other in the beginning. They don't really pay very much attention to each other. My throat is really dry. Give me a second. Cho and Sue each nurse suspicions about their spouse's fidelity. Each comes to the conclusion that their spouses have been seeing each other. Sue wonders aloud how their spouse's affair might have begun. Sue and Cho reenact how they might imagine that happened. That's sort of a recurring motif. You'll think something's gonna happen, and they redo it again because they're just trying to act it out how their significant others might have done it, or just to, it'll make more sense, but they do that a lot and it messes with you, and I really like that. Cho soon invites Sue to help him write a martial arts serial for the papers. Their neighbors begin to take notice of Sue's prolonged absences. In the context of socially conservative 1960s Hong Kong, friendships between a man and a woman bear scrutiny. This is what I was mentioning about the age, is that these people, they couldn't even be friends because these older residents, they would have looked down upon them. And just in this type of society, they wouldn't want that, and they wouldn't want the idea that they're cheating or even anything bad, because they're very good people. The relationship between Cho and Sue is platonic. Also, there's suggestion that would be degraded if they stooped to the level of their spouses. As time passes, however, they acknowledge that they have developed feelings for each other. Cho leaves Hong Kong for a job in Singapore. He asks Sue to go with him. Cho waits for her at the hotel and then leaves. She can be seen rushing down the stairs of her apartment, only to arrive at the empty hotel, too late for Cho. The next year, Sue goes to Singapore and visits Cho's apartment. She calls Cho, who is working in a Singaporean newspaper at the time, but she remains silent when Cho picks up. Later, Cho realizes that she has visited the apartment after seeing a lipstick stained cigarette butt in his ashtray. While dining with a friend, Cho relays a story about how in the older times, when a person has a secret that cannot be shared, he would instead go to the top of a mountain, make a hollow, like put a hole in a tree, and whisper the secret into the hole, and then cover it with mud. 3 years later, Sue visits the former landlady, Miss Suen. Miss Suen is about to immigrate to the United States, and Sue inquires about whether the apartment is available for rent. So she just came back years later, and she's just asking her old landlady whether or not that apartment is for rent. Sometime later, Cho returns to visit his landlords, the Koos, which are the neighbors, right? He finds they have immigrated to the Philippines. He asks about Sue, the family next door, and the new owner tells him a woman and her son are now living there. He leaves without really realizing that the neighbor who lives there with the son is Sue. The film ends in Siem Reap, Cambodia, where Cho is seen visiting in Angkor Wat. It's just a religious site. This is a ruined monastery temple complex. He whispers for some time into a hollowed in a ruined wall and then plugs the hole with mud. Okay, I promise you guys I'll get better at reading. I'm just new to me, you know what I mean? Anyways, the story's great. It's only an hour and 30 minutes, and people don't really talk about time that often, and I think that all elements of the film should be taken into account. And especially a film that is this length, I feel like this is the perfect story for its length. Anything longer would be just like they just wasted too much space. Like, for example, the last movie I explained, it was 2 hours long. You could have got the movie done. It was Love by Gaspar Noé. You could have got that whole movie done in an hour 15 top. And it's like they stretched it to 2 hours. I think time is really a factor in whether or not, at least for me, with how aware the director is of their film. And being an hour and 38 minutes, this one was great. It was like you can have your lunch and watch the movie. You know what I mean? You didn't have, if once it hits the 2 hour mark, or an hour 45, it's like, oh, am I really gonna sit down for 2 hours and watch a movie? This you could just watch on TV or something. Anyone can enjoy it. The story itself was great. What I was trying to mention earlier is that at certain points, so in the beginning, they tried to reenact how their spouses might have like gone upon meeting each other, and they come to that conclusion, and then restarts, and they walk back into the scene as if time or what they just said has not just happened, and then they try to act out the scene, and it leads to very interesting parts because, for example, there's this one time where she's crying. You see the back of a man's head, and Miss Sue, I believe, Sue is about to cry to this man, asking him. You think it's her significant other, crying to him and asking if he is cheating on her, and he says that he is, and she begins to cry. Then we begin to realize that they're just reenacting a scene that might happen. Not reenacting, but acting out a scene that might happen with her husband. And so then they do it again. She cleans off her tears and she tries again. And she cries on his shoulder. I really liked it. It just played with your emotions a lot. I think. Excuse me. I think a good director should know how to tell a good story, have their own type of visuals, and be able to properly manipulate the audience emotions, because they're just as much as a factor as the sound, the story, the actual script, the actual words. They just as much as the visuals or the lighting, the viewers and how they react to certain scenes are just as significant as that, as those elements in film. And I think that by him messing with us is just showing his knowledge on how he like how well he is at using the medium of film. Um, that's probably why it's regarded as one of the greatest films of all time and one of the major works of Asian cinema. And it's like I get that, but it's like the what is it called? Requiem for a Dream. Jesus Christ, by Afronsky. Darren Afronsky. I can't say his last name. It felt like the same exact thing. We're kind of following these two characters who are sort of in love, and you have this song that's played over and over and over and over. And anytime a new scene happens, it's like, oh, we're just gonna play that song over and over. I felt the same way I felt about Requiem for a Dream. Like, Requiem for a Dream played that pretentious, that song, that art song, like over and over and over. It's like, I get we're trying to get into their head, but I don't know, it was kind of a lot. And that's sort of how I felt about this. That's just one thing I didn't really like. Um, the story was great because I just watched Love, and the next movie I'm going to talk about is A Marriage Story because I'm kind of just in the mood for love. And so I'm kind of just watching a lot of movies about it, and I just kind of want to bring something a little bit more close to home. So 2019's Marriage Story by not Wes Anderson, Noah Baumbach is a great movie. It's another love movie, and I just want to just kind of keep this week about all love films. And then I'm going to talk about The Florida Project because that movie was great, and I have a lot of things to say about that. Anyways, if we compare like A Mood for Love to the movie Love or A Marriage Story, it's a lot more intimate. Marriage Story is a lot more grand, and it's tempting to tell you these things and say a lot of things. It's like this was a simple story, almost like Romeo and Juliet, The Forbidden Love. It's like these two people wanted to be together, and they're both good people. You know what I mean? And nothing's stopping these two good people from being together. It's just that these cultural factors and then the factors, you know what I mean? Just all these other factors are stopping them from being together. And two people that we'd all want to be together. And even then, it's like we're pulled to our emotions to the extreme. Uh, when he asks you to go with him to Singapore, he asks her, "Let's run away. Ditch your guy. I'll ditch my girl, and we'll run away to Singapore." And he's like, "Just meet me at the apartment," because or the hotel, because they've been at a hotel to do their comic, the martial arts comic together in private without their neighbors knowing. And he's like, "Meet me at that hotel, Jesus Christ, and we'll run away together." And she was a little too late, and he leaves without her. What I'm trying to say is that like this is another example of how he played with our emotions, and I loved it. It's like I knew, and every ounce in me was gonna tell me that she was going to come, like she was going to go there. Almost like perfect suspense, you know what I mean? Like it was planted. Every element in the story planted the idea that she is going to go after this guy, and she does, or yeah, she does. She does, just not quick enough. She just wasn't, you know what I mean? That's not her fault, but it's like I just like that. Just play with our emotions, draw out the suspense. Knows how to do it very, very well. Um, I thought the ending was kind of cheesy. It seemed like he just wanted an interesting way to end it. And what I mean the way he ended it, but the way he whispered the secret into the hole. It's like It's very ominous. It gives people a lot to think about. You know what I mean? It's almost like the film isn't ended, even though it's ended. Because I guess that is a secret, and especially within this time period, this would be considered a secret. But it's kind of alluded to be something so much more because he goes to this ancient site and he goes and whispers the secret into this. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be this very big thing than it actually is. So it just kind of leaves it not on a cliffhanger, just the idea that the movie isn't ended yet, and that there's something to be thinking about when the movie is over. Um, just sort of an example of good writing. Not good writing necessarily. Um, I would sort of say more good with film film storytelling because it's sort of devoid of traditional kind of writing. To add something like that, you could add that at the end of the book, and I can imagine there's a lot of books that do have that. It just seems like it'd be something more power in the medium of film compared to theater or literature. And that's sort of the my sort of favorite thing about this is like Love was an art film that was too extreme and could not be accessible to audiences. This was perfect, and I'm gonna say this constantly. Like films that kind of inspire me as a filmmaker and kind of show me that films are possible to make with the things that I have around me really inspire me. And so Love sort of gave that off, but it wasn't accessible to audiences. In the Mood for Love is extremely accessible, and it had a great story that everyone could relate to, like the forbidden love or wanting to be with someone so badly. Excuse me, I'm burping a little bit. The forbidden love that everyone wants to be with so badly. Um, so it's a great story that we can all connect to. And then there's all these little technical things that filmmakers and film watchers really enjoy. Like I said, messing with their feelings when they would act out in a scene or reenact a scene. Um, a normal viewer would be like, "Oh, that's an interesting way to say it," or "That's really cool," and it kind of goes right by their head. But a filmmaker would be like, "Wow, he set that up perfectly so that they made us feel that way." It sounds ridiculous, but it's very true. Um, look at my notes. What I was mentioning earlier is that films that really inspire me, that are really accessible, and what I mean by accessible is like if I had one camera, I had a male lead and a female lead, and I had two apartments, and I had the city, I could technically make this movie. Give me a second. And that's my favorite thing about Chungking Express, which came out 6 years before In the Mood for Love by the same director. And it stars the same guy, Tony Leung. They worked on a lot of films together, Tony Leung and Wong Kar-wai. Chungking Express is just these two stories. One's like a action story, another one's like a love drama. And it's very simple, and it takes place in apartment buildings, the streets, and a restaurant. And I'm like, wow, I could really make a film like that. Like with enough vigor and determination, I could make a film like that. And it's in there. I'd put it in the top 50 maybe. Yeah, I would say top 50. Um, and this is no exception. Like this does the exact gives me the exact same feeling, despite the little things that I don't like about it. There's so much that I do because it's like I could make this film. Anyone could make this film. You could make this film. Your mother could make this film with enough. Obviously, with not the way they. And I don't. When I say that, I don't necessarily mean make this exact film or make a film that's literally gonna make it to Cannes, but it's something to pull inspiration from. You're like, I only have two characters and have an apartment building. Not an apartment building, and have access to two apartments that are near each other. how could I make a movie around that? And this is a movie you can reference. Does that make? I hope that makes sense. Um, yeah, just very inspirational. The director himself he's great with these love movies. I don't know why. He just kind of pulls with your emotions a lot. Um, and if I was to if we're gonna try to sort of see um, strings between the films that I'm talking about right now, for example, Love and In the Mood for Love, you can tell they have both influences. They're both trying to be art films. They're not trying to be they're not trying to be Hollywood films, and they're not trying to be, I guess you could say In the Mood for Love is attempting to achieve great film status. I could see that just with everything it had in control, from the time to the story to the editing, you know what I mean, to every little thing. The personality, you know what I mean? And what I mean by that is like how the character or the director puts personality into his film, showing that it's his film. Auteur theory, whatever you want to call it. I might talk about that too. I don't really subscribe to the normal idea of auteur theory. I really believe that auteur theory is a lot of different things, and if you actually read Andre Bazin's film that speaks about, or in other, not film, sorry, book, and other books about auteur theory, they're a lot more deeper than what people talk about and what you see on YouTube videos. Um, for me, a film should be as intimate as a letter to a loved one or to a significant other. And it's sort of the intimacy that you have with it. And I guess if I were to play it out to its extreme, like I would make a film and only give it to my mother or only give it to my siblings, and they can do whatever they want with it. That's like it pulled out to its extreme, sort of like a painting or a photograph. Um, or you can make that intimate person or that significant other the audience, and really keeping them in mind, but also trying to make something very personal to you. Sort of like double-edged sword. Not really double-edged sword, but you understand. And for me, I very much see that in this film. Like, compared to Love, not so much. And talking about strings in between the films, the editing style. That's it. It just gets me reminiscent of like the French New Wave, and I read a little bit about the directors, and they're both inspired by the French New Wave. So it's almost like if you're gonna watch a French, I'm pretty sure it's French, a French love story, right? Who has very much inspiration from the French New Wave, and then you're like, okay, well, let's see the French New Wave's influence on Hong Kong. So you would watch a movie called In the Mood for Love, and you could sort of see the directions they kind of take it. One a little bit more extreme and open than the other. Um, they're not really connected at all. I'm trying to. It's just in the moment. I didn't write any notes about this. I'm just trying to think of something, if there's any connection between the two, but there really isn't. It's sort of just the style and the editing and their inspirations. Um, but yeah, In the Mood for Love. It's a great film. It's a great film, but I wouldn't rank. I'd probably give it 7 out of 10. Like, it's a good film, but it's not something that my personal ranking would put up as high. Definitely in top 50 with Chungking Express. Like, Love, nowhere near top 50. Like, nowhere. I could probably put it in top 200, but not even top 100. Because I can literally name 100 more. I can name top 200 more films that are better than Love. And In the Mood for Love is one of them. Um, yeah, so probably 7 out of 10. Solid 7 out of 10. If anything, I could give it a light 8 if it got rid of the music. Hmm. What would give it an 8 or a 9? I think for me personally, if you got rid of the secret thing at the end and you got rid of the repetitive music and you I don't like the closure because I very much like the bittersweet ending, but there was no closure. And that's sort of why the whisper into the hole seems like it's just trying to carry on like the ending. Like it doesn't want you to think about the movie being ended yet. I don't know. That's why I didn't really care for that. I don't want a conclusion, but I very much like this ending. Um, so I know that doesn't really answer how to make it a better film, but sort of those things that I don't really care for. I was going to mention that the film's title is actually really cool. Um, In the Mood for Love is the American title. The original title means flowery years. Flowery. Flowery. Sorry, I just say that weird. Years. And it just in Hong Kong culture it just talks about people's youthfulness. Is an age of blossoms. That's a Chinese metaphor for the fleeting of youth, beauty, and love. And this very much film encapsulates that. That's very much what it's attempting to achieve, and I think it did it. With that being said, I think that this is the end of it. Watch In the Mood for Love, especially if you're into love movies. It's very subtle. It's something that you can get a lot of inspiration from. The girl is gorgeous. The man very handsome. I love the way the man's dressed too. Very much like characters in suits. I don't know why. I'm into 60s films and 40s films. They wear a lot of suits during that time. Um, with that being said, next week we're gonna watch, or next week in the next episode, I'm gonna try to talk about Marriage Story, and then after that, I'm gonna try to talk about Florida Project, and then we'll go from there. Just this week, I want to keep it on love. You know, just, it's moody. You know what I mean? It's 2020. We need something better than what's going on right now. Um, yeah. With that being said, I hope you guys are all okay. Thank you so much for watching. Watch this film. Tell me what you think. Even if you think I'm stupid and don't know what the fuck I'm saying, tell me why. Because I want to understand why. And I want to understand the appeal. And it's sort of the idea that it'll make me better at critiquing and analyzing films, but also being able to write them and produce them and direct them myself. Just knowing all elements and all. Just knowing the entire medium in film and cinema entirely. Um, hmm. It says right here the movie was inspired by Vertigo. If I were to think about that slightly, I could see it. I could see some of the things, but that's a whole nother conversation. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.